أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. واللعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم ومنكر فضائلهم وغاصب حقوقهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وعلى إبراهيم وعلى عمران على العالمين. صلوات. We've gathered tonight to celebrate the birth anniversary of our second Imam, Imam Hasan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam. During the few nights that I've been here, I've been going through a quick review or a commentary of Dua Iftitah. And since I just have 2 more nights in order to conclude that, I would like to connect even tonight's theme with that. Those of you who have been coming, you saw that I have divided Dua Iftitah into 7 parts. And we dealt with the 4 parts last night. And now we come to the 5th part of the dua, which is the salawat on the Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt. And I would like to actually connect with that and only deal with half of it tonight, and then go on to specifically talk about Imam Hasan al-Mujtaba. But this is remember that this dua is from the Imam of the time. And when we look at the section on the salawat, there is a longer passage of the salawat on the Prophet, and then we come to Amir al-Mu'mineen, then Bibi Fatima, and then Hasanain alayhim salatu wassalam. And even in the salawat, the way Imam has taught us, it seems that the Panjatan have a different salawat there, and then it continues later on. So I'll stop that when we come to the brothers Hasan and Husayn, and then go on to talk a little bit about Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Salawat padne ke बाद. Coming to the salawat on the Prophet, normally in the member we don't show you the slides, although we do that at JCC, but here no. What I'll do is go through very briefly where the Imam is teaching us to do salawat on the Prophet. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin abdika wa rasulika wa aminika wa safiyika wa habibika wa khiyaratika min khalqik wa hafiz sirrik wa muballigh risalatik. That Allah send your blessings in Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then the Imam is telling us how to know him. What are the qualities or the titles of the Prophet? And the very first one, he says, Abdika. Allah send your blessings on Muhammad, your servant. And then, wa rasulika, and your messenger, and your trustee, and your chosen one. Wa habibika, and your beloved one. Wa khayaratika min khalqiq, and your best choice from your servants. Wa hafiz sirrika, and the preserver of your secrets, and the preacher of your messages. Here you see the term Abd is the first one. And this is one of the greatness of the Prophet, that although he commanded absolute, honor and respect as far as the majority of Muslims are concerned, other than the munafiqeen. To the extent that even at the time of Sulh Hudaybiyah, when the Prophet was negotiating this treaty with the mushrikeen of Mecca, they had sent somebody to talk to the Prophet even before, in the same event. When he went back, he went to the people of Mecca and he said, don't try to fight him. Don't think that the people around him will leave him alone. Because I saw that when he was doing his wudu, the companions of the Prophet would not let even a single drop of his wudu water, go down in the sand. They would actually, put their hands there to take it and put on their face as a barakah. I hope the Wahhabis read this narration carefully. There's a barakat in that water which had touched the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So a prophet who had that much command on his, and respect among his followers, but one of the greatest achievement of Rasulullah, and I'll just leave it with this one abd here, is that he made sure that the Muslims do not ever elevate the status of the Prophet to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You look at what happened to Isa ibn Maryam. Christians look at him as Son of God or the God himself, and they worship him. But Muslims from day one, in our namaz, every day, in our tashahud, we are reminded, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Abd comes first and Rasul comes later on. To emphasize that we do not ever, do ghulu and exaggerate the Prophet status and bring it to the level of divinity. And so, after all these different qualities and description, then we say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, who is described in this way, afdala wa ahsana wa ajmala. What kind of salawat, O Allah, what kind of blessing we want from you to your Rasul. And that is what is being explained now. أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى. Allah send the blessings on him, the blessings which will be the salawat, which will be most virtuous, the best, the most pleasant, the most complete, the most pure, the ever-growing, the most noble, the most holy, and the most sublime. Not only that, O Allah, وَأَكْثَرُ مَا صَلَّيْتَ وَبَارَكْتَ وَتَرَحَمْتَ وَتَحَنَّنْتَ وَسَلَّمْتَ عَلَى أَحَدٍ مِّنْ عِبَادِكَ وَأَنْبِيَائِكَ وَرُسُلِكَ. And Allah, not only that the salawat that you are sending on Muhammad should be the best, rather it should be more than what you have blessed. Better, it should be more than what you have blessed and graced and showed mercy and shown compassion and greeted anyone from your servants, your prophets, your messengers, your chosen ones, and those who are honorable with you from among your creation. So we are basically asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send the salawat to the Prophet as of the highest quality and the highest level. Salawat Akbar. And then we come to, the teaching of the 12th Imam here. Allahumma salli ala aliyin amir al-mu'minin wa basir rasul rabbil alameen. That Allah send your salawat on Ali. And then two important qualities. Number one, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he is the chief of the leader of the believers. Wa basir rasul rabbil alameen. And he is the successor of the messenger of the Lord of the universe. And then we describe him as a person. Again, abdika wa waliyika. Regarding Rasulullah, we said abdika wa rasulik. Here we are saying to Allah, shower your blessings on Ali, abdika wa waliyik, on your servant and your friend, wa akhi rasulik, and the brother of your messenger, wa hujjatika ala khalqiq, and your proof over the people, wa ayatika al-kubra, and your great sign. Only Quran is not a miracle. Even Ali is a miracle here. وَالنَّبَعِ الْعَظِيمِ, and the great news. The great news here refers to the wilayat of Ali in event of Ghadir. Salawat. Just one more point here about Abd. When we are describing Ali in the words of the 12th Imam, is Abdika wa waliyik. Amir al-Mu'minin himself is a statement where he says that, Ya Ilahi, when I see you as my Lord, I consider this to be an honor for myself that you are my Rabb. And actually it's the other way around. He begins by saying that, Allah, I consider it to be an honor for me to be Abd, your Abd. And I consider a pride for myself that you are my Lord. And this is where he says, Allah, I love the way you are my Lord, and I would like you to make me the way you would love me as your Abd. And so relationship of Rabb and Abd is very essential even when it comes to Rasul and the Imam. Salawat. Going on to the third salawat, وَصَلِّ عَلَى الصَّدِّيقَةِ الطَّاهِرَةِ فَاطِمَةِ سَيِّدَةِ نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Now it becomes more shorter. That Allah, send your blessings on the most truthful and the pure lady, Fatima, the leader of the women of the worlds. And then we come to the last part for tonight. وَصَلِّ عَلَى سِبْتِ الرَّحْمَةِ. Allah, shower your blessings on the two grandsons of mercy. Here is referring to Rasulullah as Rahmatun lil Alameen, Sibti al-Rahma. Allah, send your blessings on the mercy, on the two grandsons of the mercy, wa Imami al-Huda, and the leaders of guidance, al-Hasan wal Husayn, Sayyid al-Shabab Ahl al-Jannah. Hasan and Husayn, who are the leaders of the youths of paradise. Salawat. It's interesting that when we look at the hadith which have come from the Prophet regarding these two grandsons, the two brothers, it's interesting to see many of the fada'il have always come together regarding Imam Hasan and Imam Husayn. Tonight I would like to present two. One is their status in this dunya, and the other is their status in the akhirah. And once that is confirmed, we don't have to worry about others and where they will end up. When it comes to this dunya, we have a statement where the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-Hasan wal-Husayn imaman, qama aw qa'ada. Hasan and Husayn are two imams. Doesn't matter whether they stand up and fight the enemy or sit down and make peace with the enemy. This in a way was a prediction that, and it's important to realize that Hasan and Husayn are exactly the same. And this is where we see that even people like Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, in another version, he was in Siffin. This is one of the companions of the Prophet. Some of these people, munafiqeen, were there anyway, even in the camp of Ali. They were saying to him, you are a Sahabi of Rasulullah, you fought alongside Rasulullah against the kuffar. And today you are fighting the Muslims. On the other side, they are not kuffar, they are Muslims. And this is where Abu Ayyub al-Ansari responded by saying that I heard the Prophet saying, Al-Hasan wal-Husayn imaman. Hasan and Husayn are two imams. Qama aw qa'ada. Whether they stand up and fight or sit down and make peace. Wa abuhuma khayrun minuhuma. And their father is even better than them. And he uses that statement of Rasulullah to say that, if Hasan and Husayn can sit down, either fight the enemy or make peace with the enemy, they are Imam, their father is even at a higher status. And this is where we sometimes, hear these issues, because Imam Hasan alayhi salam, this is not the time to go into the history and why it happened and what were the circumstances. But that was the best decision and choice that Imam Hasan made at that time. For the survival of the small, sincere Shia group. You have to realize that the people who were around Amir al-Mu'mineen in Siffin or in Kufa, and those who were there after the Shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen with Imam Hasan, they were not necessarily technically Shia. There were some who believed in the imamat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they believed in the imamat of Imam Hasan. But majority of these people were not really Shia from the Aqidah point of view. They were the people who didn't like, Muawiyah and Sham. And this is where they saw, the best choice we have is to be with them. And this is where, when we see the circumstances, we saw the reality came out in the issue of Imam Hasan alayhi salam, who was in a way forced because of the circumstances to sign the peace treaty with Muawiyah. When some of these Sunni historians would like to say that, there is a difference between Hasan and Husayn. Hasan is Shahzadeh Aman, is a prince of peace, whereas Husayn was, Nauzubillah, more, hot-blooded, angry person, and that's why he went to fight against Yazid. If we just change, hypothetically, their age and their position, if Husayn was older and Hasan was younger, the decision what was made by Imam Hasan would have been the same decision made by Imam Husayn. And if Hasan was in the place of Imam Husayn at the time of Karbala, he would have done exactly the same thing. There is no contradiction between the two of them at all. Even if you study the details about the history of this peace treaty, you will see that there were some Shias also, sincere ones actually, who didn't understand the wisdom of Imam's decision. And they were in a way angry with the Imam. They used to come and talk with him in a very rude manner, accusing him that you didn't really stand up for your position. We would have rather died, fighting for you than giving into the government of Muawiyah. And the greatness of Imam Hasan is that when he realized that these are the people who are, sincere, but they are ignorant, they don't know, they can't see the future, he would sit down and explain to them the situation. And one of the examples he uses, he used to recite this Surah Qadr, relevant to Ramadan, where he says, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alf shahr. One night of Qadr is worthier and better than 1,000 months. He was just trying to, figuratively explain to them that what I have done, what I have not given up my imamat. I have only handed over the political, power. What I have is Laylatul Qadr. What Muawiyah has taken is Alf Shahr. And interestingly, in history, if you go down and look at the reign of Banu Umayyah, if you minus the 6 months after Yazid, where his son was not really interested in this, and then he abdicated, and the Khilafat went to another branch of Banu Umayyah known as Al Marwan. And if you also minus the reign of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who was the most just ruler among Banu Umayyah, who eliminated this Lanatun Amir al-Mu'minin in Friday khutbahs, if you minus those two individuals' reign, you will see that the reign of Banu Umayyah is exactly 1,000 months. So when Imam Hasan alayhi salam was using this ayat, he was actually also predicting that Banu Umayyah will be there for 1,000 months, and then that will be the end of their rule. Salawat. And Imam Husayn alayhi salam, during those events and that time, there is not a single narration or even a weak report that Imam Hasan had opposed his brother. He was absolutely obedient, because for Imam Husayn, Hasan was the Imam of the time. And so when the Prophet says, Al-Hasan wal-Husayn Imaman, they are Imam whether they sit down and make peace or they stand up and fight against the enemy. Salawat. So the imamat is the worldly position given to them. What about their status in the akhirah? Again, we have a very famous hadith from the Prophet where he says, Al-Hasan wal-Husayn Sayyid al-Shababi al-Jannah. That Hasan and Husayn are the chiefs of the youths of paradise. This is a very famous hadith narrated by different companions of Rasulullah. Abu Sa'id Khudari in Sahih Tirmidhi, Umar ibn Khattab in Ibn Asakir, Abdullah bin Umar, his son, in Sunan ibn Majah, Hudhayfa in Musnad of Ahmad bin Hanbal. And so it has been, of course, Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari doesn't have that. There was a scholar who came later on among Sunnis by the name of Al-Hakim Nishapuri, and he wrote Al-Mustadrak al-Sahihain. Mustadrak means the companion to the Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. He used the same criteria used by Bukhari and Muslim, and all the ahadith that they had ignored, he put it in his book. And there he actually gives this hadith of Al-Hasan wal-Husayn Sayyid al-Shabab Ahl al-Jannah, and then he makes a comment. He says, هذا حديث قد صح من أوجه كثيرة. This is a hadith which is sahih from different angles. وأنا أتعجب أنهما لم يخرجاه. And I'm surprised why Bukhari and Muslim did not include this. As I use the term sometimes, kabhi kabhi Bukhar ho jata tha. When they talk about the fazail of Ahlul Bayt, so they will just ignore them. But you have, Hakim Nishapuri saying that this is a very authentic statement from Rasulullah, and I'm surprised why Bukhari and Muslim did not include that. Abdullah bin Umar, who is one of the narrators of this, he actually has an addition in that hadith, where he says that the Prophet said, Al-Hasan wal-Husayn Sayyid al-Shabab Ahl al-Jannah wa abuhuma khayrun minhima. He says Hasan and Husayn are the chiefs of the youths of paradise, and their father is even better than them. Huzaifa Yamani, one of the prominent and trustworthy companion of the Prophet, his version of this hadith, which is from Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, he actually gives another context to this. He says, one day after the prayers, it was night time, and the Prophet came out of the masjid, I followed him. And the Prophet, probably knew or, realized that it was my footsteps. So he says, is that you, Huzaifa? And Huzaifa said, yes, I am just following you. And then the Prophet told him, Malakun min al-malaika lam yuhbat ila al-ard qabla hadhihi al-layla. Oh, Hudhaifa, you don't know that just now an angel from the angels came down to the earth who had never descended before. فَاسْتَأْذَنَ رَبُّهُ أَنْ يُسَلِّمُ عَلَيَّ. And he asked Allah's permission to come down to the earth and greet me. And he came, وَيُبَشِّرُنِي, and he gave me the good news. أَنَّ الْحَسَنَ وَالْحُسَيْنَ سَيِّدَ الشَّبَابِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. He gave me the good news that Hasan and Husayn are the chiefs of the youths of paradise. وَأَنَّ فَاطِمَةَ سَيِّدَةِ نِسَاءِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. And that Fatima is the chief of the women of paradise. Salawat padhna ek baar aur. And so this is the status of Imam Hasan and his brother Husayn. In dunya they are Imam, in akhirah they are youths of the paradise. And so when we look at the issue of Imam Hasan and Imam Husayn, and historians, even non-Shias, agree that the instigator of poisoning Imam Hasan was Muawiyah, and the person responsible for the shahadat of Imam Husayn is Yazid. If Hasan and Husayn are the chiefs of paradise, where will Muawiyah and Yazid end up? Yes, Allah is the judge, but He has given us aql also. When you have all these hadiths coming from Rasulullah, you want to tell me that, okay, so the victim and the murderer would be in the same place? Come on, then why are we worrying, so much about halal and haram and this and that? There was somebody, I'm just digressing, but it's Friday night anyway. It's March break, so I was in Muharram once in London, UK, and the Ahlul Bayt TV had asked me to join in a live program. And because it was Muharram, the issues of Karbala were coming up. And one of the caller, she sounded from Arabic background, very passionate and angry also. And she said, Imam Hussein was killed by the Persians. And now you Shias are crying because you were responsible for it. And she uses the name. She says, Shemr was a Iranian. And Alhamdulillah, that was a blessing for me because I knew details about Shemr and his family. He comes from Qabila, Kilabiya tribe of Banin. They are pure Arab. So I told basically, and there is some other questions like that, talking about the lanat on Yazid and things like that. So I told her, first of all, Shemr was a pure Arab, not an Iranian. And this has nothing to do with Iranians killing Imam Hussein. And this whole issue you have that, why you are cursing Yazid, maybe Allah would forgive him, or maybe Allah has forgiven him. then he can be in Jannah with Imam Husayn as Sayyid al-Shabab al-Jannah. And my response was that, listen, if you believe that Allah is going to forgive Yazid for being responsible for killing Imam Husayn alayhi salam, definitely He's going to forgive me for doing lanat on Yazid. Because doing lanat on Yazid is nothing comparable to killing Imam Husayn. And if He's going to be forgiven for that heinous, crime, I'm not doing anything wrong. So don't worry about me. If your God is going to forgive Yazid, He's going to forgive me also. Salawat padne para. But even this hadith, because it has come in so many different narrations by different Sahaba, prominent, including the second Khalifa and his son, Abu Sa'id Khuduri, Hudhayfa Yamani, and many others. So they could not really dismiss this hadith. So this is where we see during the time of Banu Umayyah, there was always this attempt to bring something counter to it. And they have a hadith which says, قال رسول الله لأبي بكر وعمر, that the Prophet said to Abu Bakr and Umar, هذانا سيدا كهول أهل الجنة, that Abu Bakr and Umar are the chief of the elders of Jannah, من الأولين والآخرين, all people from beginning to the end, except the Anbiya and Mursaleen. Now whoever concocted this hadith didn't realize that both Imam Hasan and Husayn, when their shahadat happened, they were not young. Imam Husayn was 57 years old, not a young person. Yet Rasulullah says they are Sayyida Shabab Ahl Jannah. It means that the people who will go in Jannah would be Shabab. This is what I said, one day. Don't worry if your hair has become gray. When you go in Jannah, you will be in your youth, age. Don't worry about it. Because the people who will go to Jannah would be young. There is actually a hadith that they have where the Prophet says, أهل الجنة جرد مرد كحل لا يفنى شبابهم ولا تبلى ثيابهم. That, the people who will be in Jannah, they will be young. They will not age. And so there will be no old people in Jannah anyway to have, leaders of the Kuhul Ahl Jannah there. And this is where you come to realize that, sometimes these ahadith are just concocted and made up in order to counter the fadail of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. Salawat padne para. एक बार और सलावत पढ़ें. Although those who were against the Ahlul Bayt, Ali and his children, they always tried to suppress the fadail of Ahlul Bayt, whether in relation to the Sha'n and Nuzul, the context in which the ayat were revealed regarding them, or the ahadith of the Prophet, or if they could not suppress them, they tried to say they are weak, and if they were not able to make them weak status-wise, they basically came up with different, counter ahadith. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we use this term in English, that God works in mysterious ways, He actually has used the talent, the language, voice, and pen of those who do not believe in the Ahlul Bayt as the Imams for the fadail of Ahlul Bayt. Even Sayyid Bukhari, Sayyid Muslim, I'll just give one example that if you read the Sahih Bukhari, even the version which is there now, even with the one published in Saudi Arabia with the English translation, you will see, for example, it is very common these days. Any prominent Sunni orator or speaker, when they talk about Ali, they will say radiyallahu anhu. When they talk about Muawiyah, they will say radiyallahu anhu. They put them all on the same category. But there was a time when this was not the norm. They actually used to use very glorifying term for Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sunnis. They would say Ali karramallahu wajhu, not radiyallahu anhu. Karramallahu wajhu means may Allah honor his face, because that was the face which never bowed down in front of an idol. Unlike all the majority of the companions of Rasulullah, they were idol worshippers before. And this was the term used by Sunnis. It's only lately in 60, 70 years that we see that the Wahhabi ulama are emphasizing. Even I've seen their websites of the muftis of Saudi Arabia, in the question answers they have, for example, somebody would say, should we say karramallahu wajhu after Ali? And the mufti writes very clearly that if you say karramallahu wajhu to Ali now, it means you are degrading others. So it is better just to say radiyallahu anhu. But what they do not realize that, even if you go to Sayyid Bukhari, and I have checked this, when it comes to the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Bukhari, in almost every place where he has the name of Ali, he writes alayhi salam. When it comes to the name of Bibi Fatima salawatullah alayha, there also he writes, alayhi salam. When he talks about Hasan and Husayn, he will write alayhum salam. Not only that, even when he mentions Imam Zainul Abidin, there he writes alayhi salam. Whereas when it comes to Abu Bakr, he will say radiyallahu anhu. Umar, it will say radiyallahu anhu. Uthman, he will say radiyallahu anhu. Actually, in the famous hadith from Aisha, where she is quoting her father saying that, Fatima went and asked for fadak, and because she was refused, she was angry, and her anger continued till her death. In that one line, Bukhari, when he mentions the name of Aisha, he says, radiyallahu anha, after Aisha. But when he writes Fatima, in the same sentence, he says, alayhi salam. And so, during the early days, it was very clear that Ahlul Bayt had a special, status even in the eyes of the Sunni ulama of the early days. And this is where we see that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has maintained this honor and dignity for them, and especially for Imam Hasan Mujtaba alayhi salatu wa salam. Salawat. Even when it comes to the fadail, and before I go to Urdu, Sahih Bukhari, for example, has a whole chapter about fadail al-sahaba. That is the title of the chapter, where he talks about the fadail, the virtue and qualities, praise of the sahaba. And so then in the subsection, for example, he will say, fadail Abi Bakr, fadail Umar ibn Khattab, Fadail Uthman bin Affan, Fadail, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali. At the end, he comes to Muawiyah. Interestingly, he doesn't write the word Fadail there in that subsection. He says, Babu Dhikr Muawiyah. Means the mention of Muawiyah. Doesn't use the word fadail when he talks about, ahadith regarding Muawiyah. So even Sahih Bukhari has differentiation there, especially when it comes to Muawiyah compared to the Ahlul Bayt. And one of the famous um, commentators of Sahih Bukhari by the name of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, in his book Fathul Bari, he actually says the reason why Imam Bukhari doesn't write the word Fada'il of Muawiyah, because لم يصح في فضائل معاوية شيء, because anything to do with the Fada'il of Muawiyah is not considered to be authentic. So we have this, early scholars. But these days, what is happening? Saudi Arabia has actually financed millions of dollars to produce a film for Muawiyah, which is released in Ramadan. It has 30 episodes being broadcast there in Saudi Arabia. Iraq has banned it. Iran has banned it. Egyptian has not really, they not banned it, but Al-Azhar University has problem with it because they are showing the faces of the prominent Sahaba and Khulafa, which they don't believe to be the right thing, but they don't have a problem with the film in whole. And so this is where we see that it is the Wahhabi lobby which is using their resources and their clout in the Sunni world in order to promote people like Muawiyah and Yazid. In the textbooks published in Saudi Arabia by the Ministry of Education, a textbook which is used as a history text in the Saudi schools, one of the textbooks, actually, the title says, Amir al-Mu'mineen Yazid bin Muawiyah. Not only Muawiyah, but even now Yazid has become Amir al-Mu'mineen for them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there, where they can do whatever they want. They were not able to suppress the name of Ahlul Bayt in the past, nor will be able to do that in the future, inshallah. Salawat. आखिर में एक और अहम इंटरेस्टिंग क़स्सा आपके सामने पेश करना चाहेंगे. आज ज़रा तूल हो गई गुफ्तगू, लेकिन बहरहाल जहाँ तक फ़ज़ाइल अहले बैत की बात है, सुन्नियों में जो मेन क्लासिकल बुक्स हैं हदीस की, वो 6 बुक्स हैं. दे आर नोन एज अस्सिहा सित्ता, 6 canonical collection of hadith. Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim are the 2 prominent ones. And one of them actually is Sunan by Imam Nisai. Imam Nisai actually even wrote a book called Fadail Amir al-Mu'minin Ali bin Abi Talib. A book entirely on the Fadail of Ali. In his journey, once he went to Jerusalem, from there he went to Damascus. And this is, we are talking about the late 3rd century of the Islamic era. Imam Nisai died in the year 303. And his death is a very interesting story there. When he reached to Damascus, he realized that the people of Damascus, the people of Sham there, had this hatred towards Ali, a remnant of the days of Muawiyah and his influence. And so because he was the author of Fadail Amir al-Mu'minin Ali, he started, describing the Fadail in the masjid. A group came to him and they said, we only hear you talking about the Fadail of Ali. Don't you know any hadith about the Fadail of Muawiyah? And he says, I don't see any hadith from Rasulullah about Muawiyah. They became so angry, they started assaulting him, especially kicking him, over below the navel, to the extent what we call, he went into this hernia problem, became ill, and eventually he died because of that illness. And so actually Sunni historians themselves, they say, توفي بها. He died because of it. مقتولا شهيدا. That he became shaheed because he was attacked for, talking about the fadail of Ali and not narrating anything in the fadail of Muawiyah. So we see this, this is among the Sunni themselves. So when we talking about the fadail of Ahlul Bayt, हम लोगों के लिए ऐसी घबराने की बात नहीं होनी चाहिए, न ये गुलूफ की बात होती है। अक्सर कहा जाता है कि भाई आप लोग बस यही कह करते हैं, क्या करें भाई, अल्लाह मियाँ ने भी इन्हीं की तारीफ़ की है। हाँ, जितने वाक़यात हैं उसमें इन्हीं का जिक्र आता है, किसी और का जिक्र नहीं है। बीवियाँ बहुत सी थी, रिश्तेदार बहुत से थे, सहाबा बहुत से थे, लेकिन जहाँ बात रसूल की आती है तो उनके साथ अहले बैत की बात होती है। और इसी उन्वान से रसूल ने ये इस पैगाम जो दिया था, इन्नी तारिकुम फ़ीकुम सक़लैन, हम दो बहुत ही गिना बहा चीज़ों को छोड़ के जा रहे हैं तुम्हारी हिदायत के लिए। एक कुरान है और अहले बैत है। और अहले बैत की पैरवी का मतलब यही है, उनके याद को ज़िंदा रखना, चाहे वो विलादत के उन्वान से हो, शहादत के उन्वान से हो। और सबसे अहम बात यह है कि इनका ज़िक्र ज़िंदा रहना चाहिए हमारे अपने अमली ज़िंदगी में, ताकि लोग हमें देख कर, हमारे अखलाक को देख के वो कहेंगे कि अगर ये इतने अच्छे हैं तो इनके आइम्मा कितने बेहतर थे। खुदावंद आलम की बारगाह में दुआ है, खुदावंद इस बार कबूल फरमा, हमारे गुनाहों को बख्श दे, हमारे तौफ़ीक़ात में इजाफ़ा फरमा। खुदावंद आलम इस्लाम में सुलह और अमन की फ़िज़ा पैदा कर, खुसूसन इमाम हसन मुज्तबा के सदक़े में तकफ़ीरी अफ़वाज की तमाम सलाहियतों को नीस्त व नाबूद फरमा। इमाम की ज़ुहूर में ताजिल फरमा। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम।